as we highlight how youth are driving food systems transformation at local, regional, and global levels. Youth need food systems, and food systems need youth. We come here today proud to present the UNFSS Youth Declaration on Food Systems Transformation, which you can see in the QR code or for those joining us online on the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub website. We call on you to move and to take action based on what is presented to you, to adjust the priorities to your local context, and to see us, the youth, as implementers rather than passive beneficiaries. We are not only stakeholders, but we are rights holders, advancing the right to adequate food. We are change makers from policy to innovation to education and culture. And at this stock-taking moment, let us take stock not only of food systems transformation, but also let us take stock of how we are actively empowering, resourcing, and placing trust in youth to be protagonists on this journey. And that's what this event is for, a moment to reflect and to look ahead at the role of youth in food systems transformation. And with that, I pass to OPME for his opening remarks.
Thank you so much, David. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, youth leaders. My name is Okweme Luchulo, and I'm the SDG2 Global Focal Point for MGCY and a member of the UNFSS Plus 4 Youth Task Force. It is indeed a pleasure to be in this room with everyone, and much more a privilege to welcome you all to this important session. This stock-taking moment happening in Africa represents a significant moment, not only because we are reflecting on the 4 years of progress since the original summit, but also because Africa, a youthful region with rich agricultural potential and complex food system challenges, is also now the center of the global conversation. And of course, also because the voices and the invaluable role of young people in shaping where we go from here is also increasingly being heard. And of course, in terms of securing the future of food, is not being invalidated. So, but again, this session presents another platform for the voices of young people to be heard, for us to deliberate, to share, and also amplify our voices where it matters. Just to briefly take everyone through what we can expect from this session over the next 90 minutes. So first, we'll be presenting to you the UNFSS Plus for Youth Declaration on Food Systems Transformation. And this declaration was shaped by the contribution of more than 3,000 young people across the globe who reflected on the diverse realities, their innovations, and also calls to actions in terms of securing the future of food and sustainably transforming our food systems. So what you can expect to hear today, you'll be hearing from the Youth Task Force, who have consulted over 3,000 youths over the last few months to bring her consolidated regional and global demands to the UNFSS Plus 4. And we'll also be hearing from the alumni of the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub's Youth Leadership Program. You'll be hearing from alumni from Gambia, the Philippines, from Kenya, and then also from Brazil as well. Who will be sharing on how the Youth Leadership Program, how they are applying the learnings from the program locally, and how they relate to the contents of the Youth Declaration that you'll also be we're talking about today. So, and following this, we'll hear reactions from distinguished panels of guests, and finally, we'll then open the floor for Q&A, an interactive segment. So we want to hear from everyone in this room. And for us, we hope for this session to be impactful, engaging, and of course, future focused. We'll reflect not only on the priorities in the declaration, but more importantly, to also consider how we can take the priorities from paper to action. And with that, I'll pass it back to David to take us forward.
Thank you, OPME. So the next question is, how did we get here? So this youth declaration on food systems transformation, which hopefully you can scan the QR code or look it up online, is the product of an extensive, inclusive, youth-led process that has spanned many months and, as OPME mentioned, has engaged over 3,000 young people. It started with a baseline analysis of relevant documentation. This included the youth declaration that was presented in 2021, and also looked at the outcomes and the trends that emerged from the first stock take in 2023. Following this, we assessed the outcomes of the regional progress reviews in 2024 across each of the regions. And the reason why we did this analysis was we wanted to assess what was already being discussed in this space so we can ensure that a youth perspective is brought to that conversation. The next step was integrating the views of the youth leadership program of the Hub, and we have 4 of the young leaders here joining us today to help us to shape what the regional consultations would look like. The next step was the World Food Forum Youth Assembly, which is led by the Youth Policy Board, leading 6 virtual consultations, which together brought over 1,200 youth, expert, and policymakers together to identify regional priorities. We had a follow-up survey for those who both attended and didn't get a chance to attend, which gathered a further 240 responses. And finally, we were able to bring a youth declaration to the Preparatory Youth Conference in Bangkok, which you'll see here on the title. The conference in Bangkok was really a pivotal moment to gather youth perspectives in person and online on this zero draft. With all of their comments, we were able to bring a second draft to a very important consultation hosted by the Senate Youth Representatives and the Major Group for Children and Youth. Finally, the UNFSS plus 4 Youth Task Force, many of us are here today, consolidated all of these outcomes, reviewed the comments, captured the views, and we have a final youth declaration on food systems transformation to bring to UNFSS plus 4. And it's something that we're very proud of. We hope that you will see many of your messages that are consulted resonate with you. And with that, I will pass to Dr. Nicole De Paula, who's a technical officer from the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub, for her welcome remarks.
Thank you so much, David, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here, especially when there are 4 other sessions that we are competing for. So I feel the energy and the commitment of all of you in the room. Thank you so much for being part of this session that we have called From Bangkok to Addis Ababa. And we are here to share a journey. And I think this journey is really of partnership, vision and action as well, of course. And I cannot begin without recognizing the incredible members of the UNFSS plus 4 Youth Task Force, this work has been reached by the Hub's Youth Leadership Program that exists thanks to Germany, that we're going to hear also at the end of this event today. The Youth Policy Board of the World Food Forum, thanks so much also, David, and your team for supporting us. And the Stakeholder Engagement Network Advisory Center Group representing youth from across diverse constituencies. And so it is really a joint effort here today. After months of preparation, long deliberations, I think we were a little anxious for today. It's a big moment, but this session represents more than just another meeting. I think it's a clear message that the transformation we seek will really not happen without, if we only consider these technical fixes. I think here we are talking about movement building, a meaningful engagement of civil society, and above all, about youth leadership. So it is a call to action. I think we're going to learn also what is in the context of this youth declaration. Is a renewed version from 2021, a very nicely structured process that I think it's one of the novelties here. And our goal here is very clear, to ensure that youth are not only heard, but empowered in every decision-making space at every level. Today, I really speak proudly on behalf of the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub, and I'm confident that our role is really beyond this symbolic inclusion. We have been working very hard to ensure the food policies processes reflect now the voices, ideas, and contributions of the next generation. So young people, if we really consider under 35, I don't want to be generous because there are many definitions, but let's consider the under 35 that now make up to more than 6% of the global population. So that's not just a demographic fact. I think it's really a wake-up call for all of us here and all the decision makers in this many rooms that we have here in Addis. If we are not investing in youth leadership, we are failing the majority of the world. So we must move from representation to structural engagement in governance, in investment, and in implementation. So really 3 things that what it means, I think, is about investing in youth-led innovations and food enterprises, embedding youth voices early in national food systems pathways. We're talking about very specific context here, and creating enabling environments for green jobs, lifelong learning, and intergenerational leadership. So I really saw many opportunities in Bangkok. I think we're going to see some nice images and videos that demonstrate that. But I would like to close in saying that really, personally, working alongside all of you and all these young leaders that we have also online, thank you for joining us, has been really one of the most energizing and I think rewarding process. So I have a renewed sense of purpose, and I hope you all leave this room also feeling energized and with a renewed sense of purpose. So thank you so much, David, and back to you.
Thanks so much, Nicole. And now we'll go into what the declaration says at a global level and at a regional level. And for that, I will pass to Dina Kabede, Zach Ahmed, and Nicholas Domke, who will introduce themselves in more detail and will speak to the contents of the EU Declaration for Food Systems Transformation.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, fellow youth leaders, and champions of food justice. My name is Dina Kapede. I am the alumna of the UN Food System Coordination Hub Youth Leadership Program. 4 years ago, we spoke with one voice at the first Youth Declaration. Today, we return stronger, bolder, and more united. Our vision rests on the same three pillars: advocacy, action, and empowerment. Under the pillar of advocacy, we urge all stakeholders to place food sovereignty, agroecology, and indigenous knowledge at the heart of our food system. It also urges us to incorporate its vision for food system transformation in every climate, health, education, labor, and peace agenda, holding institutions accountable and elevating voices too often silenced. Under the pillar of action, we call for a reform of food governance, embedding youth leadership in every policy, redirecting subsidies to smallholder and community-based systems, and building circular, low-waste economics that honor cultural wisdom and regenerate our planet. Under the pillar of empowerment, we demand that solution will meet the differentiated needs on every young person, especially indigenous youth, rural youth, young women and girls, and those in undeserved communities. We need systems to empower them to gain secure access to land, finance, and fair labor protection, backed by transparent systems, mentorship pipeline, and the removal of barriers that have blocked our participation. These pillars are more than ideas. They represent our call of action that youth will no longer stand on the sideline, that will co-author the transformation of food systems we urgently needed. To explore how these pillars come alive across region, I hand the floor to Zach Ahmed of the World Food Forum Youth Policy Board to introduce the regional priorities. And also I encourage you all to scan the QR code and to follow the declaration by yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Dina. Thank you, Dina. I'm Zach Ahmed, representing the World Food Forum Youth Policy Board. Let's journey through 3 regions to see how 3 pillars translates into concrete demands. We begin with our beloved continent of Africa, which faces the intertwined challenges of climate shocks, the triple burden of malnutrition, and underrepresentations in decision making. We call for dedicated youth seats in food governance at every level, achieving gender parity and full inclusion of indigenous voices, so our perspectives inform policy from day one. We demand climate smart agriculture that blends ancestral wisdom with adaptive technology and insist on facilitating the African continental free trade area, driven market access supported by inclusive infrastructure and digital aggregation tools. We seek robust nutritional programs targeting girls and young women at schools and in their communities, and gender-responsive shock response systems from emergency reserves to youth-led crisis innovations that safeguards our resilience. In the Arab region, communities endure water scarcity, conflicts, and inequitable land access. We insist on institutionalizing youth councils with gender quotas at national and local levels to ensure our voices shape recovery and reform. We demand youth access to land, microgrants, and digital resources to incubate new ventures, cooperatives that thrive even in fragile contexts. We call for investments in drought resilience innovations and mobile processing units that transform crisis into opportunity. And we pledge to protect traditional practices while strongly condemning the weaponization of food as a tool of war in the Arab region. Across the Asia and Pacific, rapid urbanization and biodiversity loss threaten food security for millions. We advocate for subsidies and education that promote healthy, culturally relevant diets paired with youth-led climate finance to scale agroecological innovation. We call for free, prior, and informed consent when integrating indigenous knowledge into modern systems. And we demand resilient infrastructure, rural roads, cold chains, innovation labs that connect youth entrepreneurs to market. Finally, we insist on fair labor policies and creation of youth advisory bodies to guarantee decent work and inclusive governance. These regional demands illustrate the power of our pillars in action. I now pass to Nicolas Domke to share how Europe, Central Asia, North America, Latin America, and the Caribbean are leading the way. Welcome.
Gracias, Zach. My name is Nicolas Domke Venegas. I am sharing with you from Chile. I'm youth representative within the SENA group of the Hub and also a member of the major group for children and youth of the United Nations. With the aim to bring more diversity to this session, I will deliver my speech in Spanish. Español. Entonces, en Europa y Asia Central, el envejecimiento de la población y el estrés hídrico coincide con el aumento de la desigualdad. Para esta región hacemos un llamado a incentivos dinámicos que prioricen los alimentos locales y nutritivos y protejan las semillas ancestrales, que promuevan las prácticas agrícolas regenerativas fundamentales para una mejor salud de nuestros suelos, así como una cooperación hídrica transfronteriza y regional. Dichos incentivos también deben incluir subvenciones y herramientas de democracia digital que empoderen a los jóvenes agroemprendedores. Exigimos una gobernanza transparente y protecciones del espacio cívico para que los jóvenes no solo promuevan soluciones, sino que también puedan responsabilizar a las instituciones en tiempo real y oportuno. Avanzando ahora hacia América del Norte, nos enfrentamos al sobreconsumo, a los desiertos alimentarios y a poderosos monopolios de la agroindustria. Pedimos redirigir las subvenciones y seguros hacia una agricultura regenerativa, lograr el suelo, secuestrar carbono y apoyar a los pequeños agricultores. Demandamos un acceso universal a alimentos asequibles y culturalmente apropiados, integrados en la atención sanitaria y amplificados por programas de embajadores de la comida, que fomenten la alfabetización y el etiquetado claro de alimentos. Insistimos en restaurar los derechos territoriales indígenas y los bancos de semilla bajo principios de consentimiento libre, previo e informado, y en escalar iniciativas de economía circular desde el reciclaje de residuos de alimentos hacia biofertilizantes, hasta asociaciones de granja e instituciones que alimenten escuelas, hospitales y prisiones. Estas acciones regionales reflejan los roles únicos de la juventud como innovadores, custodios y titulares de derechos. Finalmente, para América Latina y el Caribe, siglos de modelos extractivistas y desigualdad han marginado a las comunidades indígenas y rurales. Demandamos títulos de tierra seguros y financiamientos específicos para una agroecología con un enfoque feminista, empoderando a mujeres y jóvenes de género diverso para cuidar nuestros paisajes y entornos naturales. Insistimos en proteger la soberanía indígena a través del consentimiento libre, previo e informado y en construir bioeconomías que vinculen a los productores rurales con los mercados urbanos a través de cooperativas y plataformas digitales. Hacemos un llamado a generar programas de alimentación escolar culturalmente arraigados que prohíban los alimentos ultraprocesados en establecimientos educacionales y a cuotas para que jóvenes en distintos programas puedan acceder a capacitaciones en liderazgo y otras habilidades y herramientas, así como también protecciones para el espacio cívico que aseguren que las voces de los jóvenes den forma a las políticas en todos los niveles. With that, I now pass the floor back to Dina for a closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach and Nicolas, and the 3,000 young people all over the world who contributed to identifying, reviewing, and consolidating the Youth Declaration. We, the youth, are the largest generation in history, not merely demanding transformation, but delivering it. At the UNFSS +4, our call is clear and our mandate is urgent. Cooperate with us, invest in us, institutionalize our leadership and co-ownership. As the Stocktake assess progress since 2021, youth must stand at the center, not as beneficiaries, but as co-leaders whose innovation span from the village to the global stage. Recognize our achievements, dismantle systematic barriers, and channel direct financing into youth-led solutions, and that bridge national action with global platforms. Today, we call on governments, UN agencies, multilateral institutions, the private sector, civil society, and academia to stand with us. This is not only a policy imperative, it is a matter of justice, survival, and shared responsibility. We call on each of you in the room to take the declaration and bring it back to your communities as an advocacy tool driving ambitious change in policy and practice. Let us build food systems that uphold dignity, protect our planet, and secure a just and inclusive future for all generations. Thank you so much.
Thank you and gracias to Dina, Zach, and Nicolas for presenting the Youth Declaration. We thank you for your passion, for your leadership throughout this process, and for the solutions that you bring to the table. Following our panels, which I'm very much looking forward to, we welcome your reflections on the Youth Declaration, both here in this session and beyond, over the course of the rest of UNFSS Plus 4. Now we'll move to our panel, where we have 4 fantastic youth leaders from the Hub's Youth Leadership Program. I will introduce them one by one. We'll start with Musa Juara. Musa Juara from the Gambia is the founder of NAPE and has over 4 years of experience in supporting micro, small, and medium enterprises through his work at GIEPA. His work focuses on empowering local entrepreneurs, enhancing business development, and fostering sustainable economic growth in the Gambian context. And he's an alumni of the YLP, as you know, from Gambia. So my first question for you, Musa, is you're working at the science policy interface, and it would be great to know how you are bridging gaps between these two sectors and using your experience at the YLP to inform your work. Over to you.
Hello everyone. Thank you, David, for giving me the floor. As he already mentioned, I am Musa Juara. I'm from the Gambia, West Africa. I am the interim World Food Forum Gambia National Chapter lead. Likewise, also I am the UN Food System Coordination Hub alumni in the Gambia. Aside that, I work for the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency as an enterprise support officer. So thank you so much for this wonderful section. Gambia is the second country that launched Inception workshop on science policy society interface, looking at the agri-food system aspect. So one of the objectives is this science policy is to make sure that we have inclusive decision in food system transformation. So the launching was witnessed by different stakeholders from different sectors, looking at academia where there, researchers where there, the government was there, private sector was there, farmers were there, CSOs were there. So we want to build an ecosystem of support that is to actually bring youth from different backgrounds together to look critically into the food system. So one of the things that we are addressing is the first pillar of the youth declaration, which we draw from Bangkok, which is to make sure that we strengthen national inclusive national youth policy. So in doing that, we created the World Food Forum national chapter for the Gambia, which is in transition. Our concept note is already approved, and we are looking forward launching it very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Musa, for the response. And now I'll pass to our next panelist, who I believe is sitting beside you. Bear with me. Elizabeth Mwende, I will introduce her. She is an agricultural engineer with 7 years of experience in agri-food systems transformation, both in the public and private sector in Kenya. She has worked with rural communities to enhance their resilience to climate change and increase their food production through developing proposals for funding from FAO and the World Bank and training them on climate-smart agriculture practices. She's joining us in her capacity as the Senate Group Youth Representative, co-lead of the World Food Forum National Youth Chapter in Kenya, and an alumni of the Youth Leadership Program. Elizabeth, over to you.
Thank you, David, for giving me the floor. Good evening, everyone. So I'll give a brief of what we do as the Sena Youth representatives at the global level and also at the country level. So at the global stage, we have advocated for policy for meaningful youth engagement. For example, together with the SDG 2 global focal points, we have promoted the conformation of the major group of children and youth, Food Systems Collective, as a way to bring together the officially recognized youth constituencies of the MGCY, rather the major group of children and the youth. So our aim of doing this was to ensure that we are bringing together the youth voices into one space and to break down the silos that were existing before. So together, we have been able to address issues around the intersection of food systems and climate action, biodiversity loss, and desertification, which is, for example, showcased through a youth session which we held at the Global Youth Conference in Bangkok. At the country level, we have supported and strengthened youth networks. For example, in Kenya, I have collaborated with the alumni of the YLP program of the Hub, as well as the World Food Forum Kenya National Chapter, to engage with our National Food Systems Convener through the Interministerial Food Systems Technical Working Group, where we have held dialogues and also come up with concrete forward-looking actions, which were also documented in this year's Kenya Food Systems Stock-Taking Summit report. My colleague Nicholas, who spoke before me, is from Chile, and in Latin America and the Caribbean region, he has collaborated with other young representatives to work together with the UN Interagency Working Group on Food Systems for Latin America and the Caribbean through the conformation of the Youth Coordination Group of Latin America and the Caribbean region for agri-food systems. And together they have developed working sessions and dialogues that have mobilized local action at their regional level. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for your intervention. And now I'll pass to Reno Dominic Kabunkel. Reno is a registered nutritionist dietitian and a science research specialist at the Philippines Department of Science and Technology, and is certified in food safety and sustainability. Trained in global diplomacy and community dialogue, he is passionate about advancing food and nutrition systems for national welfare. My question for you is, as we heard from your bio, you're currently engaged in science, research, and innovation with a strong focus on food systems. How has the Hub's Youth Leadership Program strengthened your ability to bring evidence-based policies to the decision-making table? Over to you.
Yes, thank you so much for that wonderful question. So, before joining the Hub's Youth Leadership Program, I have theories, concepts, and local insights. And by that is I didn't always have the language, the tools, and the confidence to bring myself into the policy and program formulation process. And the Food Systems Coordination Hub really changed that. Gave me the power to really turn my perspectives to really having the direction, evidence, through empathy, and insights into influence. And I can still remember that presenting on the Regional Nutrition Committee discussion for nutrition program formulation to the local government unit, because what I learned to the program is how to present myself in and how can I have a system thinking, really interconnecting the science, policy, and society interface. And the recommendation were accepted as part of the agenda in how can we interact the food system components in really addressing the food insecurity. And the hub also gave me something bigger than more than just training. It gave me a global family of change makers, a support system where youth and food system leaders around all over the world sharing strategies, having failures, sharing victories. And it reminded me that science is stronger when it is shared. Policy is more powerful when it is internal and personal. Leadership isn't about the future. It is what you can do right now. I no longer enter in a discussion room hoping to be heard, and I walk in the ready to inspire, no? Ready to inspire younger generation and to be the first person to say, I believe in you and I am so, so proud of you. And because when the youth is armed with fundamental values, rooted with the community, trained to serve your seatmate, trained to serve the community, trained to serve the people, we don't just inform policy, we can transform it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reno, for those very inspiring words. And last but not least, I'll pass to Matthews Vischer Lopez. Matthew is an advisor to the Minister of Agrarian Development of Brazil and a PhD student in environmental sciences and climate governance. Matthews has worked for 8 years managing public policies and international projects to strengthen family and urban agriculture at local and national levels. And my question for you, Matthews, is can you tell us about your experience as part of the Youth Leadership Program and how you have brought these learnings to your current role within the Brazilian government? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthews. I'm from Brazil, and I am part of the youth that is engaged in food systems inside the state by the belief that it's a powerful space to transform the reality. And the Youth Leadership Program was a life-changing experience for me and for everyone who participate, because not only gave future vision and power of collaboration, but touched us in a very individual way on confidence, on social and leadership skills. And for me, reinforced my lifelong commitment to food systems. And I really encourage the continuation of programs like this, because potential youth leaders are everywhere. We are not the illuminated ones. We are just selected in a selective process. But for us, it was transformative. Well, regarding my work in the federal government, we focus on the developing of family farming. And it's a sector that faces low income, little mechanization, and hard labor. And for that, rural succession is at risk. Many youth leave for low-skilled urban jobs, and the average age of farmers is increasing. And we believe that the future of family farming depends on improving the conditions today. Young people are pragmatic. They want decent income and opportunities. And that's why in Brazil we're doing youth-oriented policies that I am supporting, expanding access to rural credit with specific lines. We are very focused on the mechanization agenda for the small agriculture. We need to end the hard labor. We are and we need to think about the new roles of youth in agriculture that is related to technology, farm management, marketing, and sales. And I'm happy to say that we have just approved our first national policy of youth and rural succession with a major win. We are reserving a share of policies of credit, land access, technical assistance, and assistance to cooperatives directed to youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your interventions. And now we'll do a quick fire round reflecting on the Youth Declaration, both the consultation process and the content that we now see in the regional and global segments. And the question I have is the same for you all. Reflecting on the process, what are the key messages that resonate with you, what you have seen on the ground, and that you wish to bring forward beyond UNFSS? I'll pass first to you, Musa.
Well, looking at the first thing that I would love to bring on the table is to address two problems as far as inclusive governance is concerned. First is to ensure that fragmentation in our food system. Second is the low integration of evidence base in our food system. So in order to make sure that to avoid fragmentation in our food system, meaning there should be inclusivity, meaning that the young people should be in the forefront to organize and coordinate the food system affairs. Because I believe if we work in silos, it will be very, very difficult to actually achieve our national and global perspective. Thank you. Yeah, remind me of that.
Thank you, Musa. And I'll pass to Elizabeth for your response to the same question.
Thank you, David, for the question. First, I would want to say that the time to act is now. We've been speaking for long, since the very first summit. It's about time that we actually see some change. And so I call for the institutionalization of youth leadership in food systems governance with mechanisms for accountability, mentorship, and intergenerational convergence. As my predecessor speaker has spoken on inclusion, we actually wish to also call for a better criteria to be used to recognize youth as leaders in food systems. And therefore, greater efforts must be made to change the parameters and thus ensure the representative inclusion of young people from the rural communities and indigenous countries. And this is because they can also be leaders, but unfortunately, they are absent in most spaces. We noticed their absence in Bangkok and also here at the UNFSS +4 event. So it's about time that we saw some shift in this. And finally, I would also call to member states to recognize and implement the CFS policy recommendations on promoting youth engagement and employment in agriculture and food systems for food security and nutrition in their countries, which is very much in congruence and convergence with the declaration that has been made today, which we all have had a chance to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And next to Reno for his reflections on the Youth Declaration.
Yes, thank you for that question. And as a civil servant is working in the intersection of science, technology, and innovation, is I always believe the transformation begins beyond four quarters of the wall. And community really faces hunger, injustice, and inequality every single day. And the Youth Declaration is not just a document that I really read or that we read. It's a mirror when we already living on the ground. So all the priorities outlines food security, youth inclusion, climate resilient food system, and nutrition are human fundamental rights. I can really experience in the realities of it that in engaging with industries, communities, and young innovators in the Philippines and also across Asia Pacific region, the alignment matters. We must align the youth declaration because the declaration is not only to validate our work, but it is when we feel strength. It is tell us that we are not alone as a youth, and from Bangkok to Addis Ababa, our voices really matters. Our innovation and actions really counts. It is more than just an affirmation, the youth declaration. It is more than just a momentum. It is a shared promise that we should not wait for a permission, but to really lead a transformation that the community really deserves. Thank you so much.
And finally to Matthews for your reflection, the Youth Declaration.
Thank you. I'm very satisfied with the final version of the Youth Declaration. I participated in a very productive stage in Bangkok with my peers of Latin American Caribbean, which I represent here. And I was glad to see the urban and rural linkage that I think it's a very important point. I am a urban planner and I work with agriculture for almost 10 years, and people sometimes see that as a mismatch. But Europe, food systems give us an integrated territorial approach, and the youth on the cities have a crucial role on the healthy diets and the conscious consumption. And I am glad also to see that the declaration reflects policy areas that are priorities on Brazil and which pragmatism and great potential of replicability. Agroecology, indigenous people, school feeding programs, taxes on ultra-processed foods, incentives on healthy foods, food labeling, and in high sugar, sodium, and added fat. I congratulate the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub, the German government, thank you, and the Global Youth Action of the World Food Forum. We hope these initiatives truly echoes the voices of youth in global spaces. But what we need is even more that we achieve greater engagement among rural and urban youth in the territories. A real engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our esteemed panel members, the YLP alumni, Musa, Elizabeth, Reno, and Matthews. Can we have a final round of applause for them? Thank you. And now I have the great privilege of introducing a video where we will learn what actually took place in Bangkok at this regional preparatory meeting. So I'll ask our colleagues looking at the tech to please put on the video and we can sit back and enjoy.
I think about the future of food system. I see the inclusive, the resilient food systems.
Future of food is challenging.
The future of food is about justice.
The future of food is going to be centered on people.
The future is ancestral. I think that the future of food will be conscious food system and conscious purchasing and individualism.
For me, the future of food systems is.
That was the question that opened the Preparatory Youth Conference for the second UN Food Systems Summit Stocktake, UNFSS Plus 4. More than 100 young leaders from over 50 countries gathered in person in Bangkok, with over 1,000 more joining online, bringing powerful answers. From 15 to 16 May 2025, youth gathered to co-create solutions, challenge decision-making norms, and strengthen a shared youth declaration designed to shape national food systems reviews and influence global policy spaces. This wasn't just a dialogue, it was a political moment. In his opening remarks, Dr. Stefanos Fotio, director of the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub, reminded participants that this was a space for strategic action. Dr. Nicole DePaula emphasized that food systems must be rooted in dignity, inclusion, and intergenerational trust. Other institutional speakers echoed a common truth. The future of food must be shaped with youth, not after them. Throughout the two-day event, delegates participated in foresight workshops, accountability labs, and regional drafting sessions. They explored global shifts like urbanization, climate shocks, and digital transitions, and paired them with grounded realities from their communities. In every session, the same themes kept rising: equity, inclusion, participation, and transformation. The Youth Declaration was refined collectively, strengthened through open debate and diverse contributions. It now reflects urgent priorities: food justice, finance equity, digital access, and planetary health. Young leaders shared how they're already contributing to change, leading policy updates, launching community listening campaigns, and influencing national reviews. Their message was clear: youth are not future stakeholders, they are co-leaders. At the closing, Hans Ulrich Sudeck, German Deputy Ambassador to Thailand and supporter of the event, urged youth to carry this momentum into national processes and to Ethiopia, where the UN FSS Plus 4 will take place in July. Conference ended with determination and positive energy. This is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of the next chapter in food systems transformation. The Youth Declaration is in your hands. The road to UNFSS Plus 4 is clear.
When I think about
indeed, the Youth Declaration is in our hands. So if you're really curious, we have one here for you to take a look. Thank you so much again. It's very inspiring to be with all of you. And actually, when I watched this video, I feel bad because I feel like doing another declaration, another process. Can we do all again? Because it was, I think that's the part is also we cannot forget in this process. We still need to feel energized and positive about the possibility of change. That when we turn on the TV, it's very hard to remain optimistic of the speed of the change that we need. So today, I think that's this piece of hope that it's also important for all of us. And Reno, you also had all of you very inspiring, but you brought this global family of change makers, and I think that's really true, and the video shows that. And another point was very important that I heard is like how to bring insights into influence. And that's why it's so important to have this conversation here in this policy space. It is then my great honor to have another short panel conversation, to have a reaction from various stakeholders, from science, policy, and of course our national conveners who are really leading the implementation of the national pathways on the ground. So I have here, and I'll be short with the introductions because it's really nice that we keep this into our conversation. I'll introduce all of you, and then we can go for the questions. So it's my great honor to have Professor Nita Rao, who is a professor of gender and development at the University of East Anglia, and also director of the Norwich Institute for Sustainable Development, and of course a member of our scientific advisory committee of the hub. So Nita, thank you very much for being with us. We have also Dr. Inaya Ezzedine, who is the chairperson of the Women and Children's Parliamentary Committee, also a national convener from Lebanon. Thank you so much for being here. You've been also in many panels and going around, so we all appreciate your time. Not one. It goes until very late. And finally, we also have Ms. Paulina Ade, who is Food Systems National Co-Convener and Director of Women Agriculture Development of Ghana. Also with everybody with many events, so thank you very much for being with us. So Nita, you and all of you, you heard, I think, a lot of insights. It's even hard even to, how do we prioritize? But a question for you, what policy or programmatic shifts do you believe are urgently needed to enable their agency and leadership in both local and national decision making? What is your reflection after hearing all of this? Thank you, Nita.
Sorry. Thank you so much. And first of all, congratulations to all our youth speakers. It's been so interesting and so motivating, actually, to listen to all of you and also to see the youth declaration. So I just wanted to actually start by saying that, and I think Elizabeth mentioned this in her call to action, to see that the momentum is building with youth. I was part of the high-level panel of experts of the CFS when we did the youth report in 2021 on youth engagement and employment in food systems. And our youth participants or writers in that report actually were very insistent on a few things. They wanted their voices to be heard. And so I'm really delighted today that actually we've come from that report. And in the last 4 years, the youth on the agenda has only got stronger. And that voice has got amplified across so many different countries, regions, and the globe. And I think one of the, just wanted to reiterate that the pillars on which that report was based was really rights, as everybody has talked about, equity and inclusion. I think youth agency was very important part of it, that youth should have this and recognition. And I think dignity is another word that we've been hearing today. That really recognition of what they bring to the table. And these were the principles. And I think it's great that these are moving ahead. I was only a little bit sort of depressed maybe when I read the UNFSS plus 4 stakeholders report, where we found that again, youth was saying that they continue to be underrepresented in decision making, have limited structural influence over national food systems policies, and also their contributions are undervalued and sometimes taken for granted. So clearly there is a call for action, which, as many of you have said, the time to act is now, and we really need to move forward with this. So one of the things I think from the Scientific Advisory Committee perspective that has been emerging is really around inclusive governance and also decentralization. And we've heard this several times already today, that for a sustainable food systems transformation, policies and programs really need to enable much more decentralized, bottom-up approach, as there it becomes much easier, not just for youth, but also other stakeholders, whether it is women, somebody said rural, who can't travel here, indigenous peoples, so for different voices to be heard at the more local level. And if we can build up from the local to the global. And we do have a SAC actually policy brief on this governance, which also emphasizes inclusive governance and the links between decentralized local government and national government. The second thing I think which your youth declaration has very well covered, and this is a key element of social justice and gender justice, is representation is one. But the second element is actually just giving a voice on the table is not enough. There needs to be resources behind it. So I thank also the German representative here to have supported this process, but also other kinds of resources: land, seeds, technology, finance. We have heard whole sets of things, including knowledges in relation to agroecological practices, innovations, sustainable innovations, and so on. Recently, I have had a discussion. I'm teaching in Norfolk, in Norwich, in the UK, and we had a discussion with young people in Norfolk, which is mainly a rural place. And they were very keen on sustainability. They had a lot of ideas on food related, and they would really like food related education in schools, for example. But here there's a resource gap in practice because there's no additional funding, for additional curriculum, for additional resources for teachers, for including in the curriculum, and so on. So there are structural barriers still in terms of resources and how they are distributed that need to be addressed, putting youth at the center. And final third point I wanted to make was really about recognition in policy instruments and in the legal frame. One of the youth delegates had also mentioned this. And I think CFS process, CFS is of course an national government-based intergovernmental body. So if the CFS policy process, I think, integrates some of these recommendations, which will really make it, it's not legally, but at least voluntarily binding on nation states who sign up to this through the negotiation process. But there are many examples that which we gave also in the HLP report on, youth targeted wage subsidies, for instance, or innovative social finance, which is targeting youth entrepreneurs. I come from India. One very good example in India was that where one of the states which was making a transition from more chemical based industrial agriculture to more agroecological processes, it actually gave a guarantee to employ young graduates from agricultural universities for a period of 3 to 5 years, integrating them within the process of transformation. They were young graduates. They came with their agricultural knowledge, but also worked with communities to transform the food system there. Do you want me to stop, or one more point?
I don't want you to stop, but I think I will stop.
Yeah, that's fine. So I can pick up.
There will be a chance for a conversation. Of course, we also want to hear from our audience, so we're trying to save this time. Thank you so much, Professor Anita, for this, first insights with concrete examples. And of course, we've made a lot of progress, but there are gaps, and that's here the conversation. So thank you for acknowledging them. And we do have also Dr. Inaya, as Lebanon National Convener for Food Systems and a parliamentary leader. How do you envision the role of youth in shaping and implementing these people-centered food policies? And what mechanisms can better integrate youth voices into national legislative process to ensure inclusive and sustainable food systems?
Thank you very much. Of course, as a Lebanon National Convener and a parliamentarian, I have witnessed, especially during the multiple crises and the war that in a way is still going on in Lebanon. We have witnessed firsthand how youth are not just beneficiaries or participants in the food system transformation. They were co-creating. Actually, they were with us when we started our national dialogues to write the document about the food system transformation, and they are still working with us on the pathway, especially in times of crisis. The youth of Lebanon have stepped up where former systems have collapsed. In the middle of the war, displacement and economic collapse, breakdown, they created real people-centered local solutions, from reviving traditional agroecological farming practices to launching seed-saving networks and urban gardens. And also they built youth-led community kitchens that have served thousands or hundreds of thousands of displaced from the south to the different parts of Lebanon. And young researchers and practitioners across sectors are collaborating to produce data, to share knowledge, and to influence policy and lead agri-tech innovations. These are not abstract gestures. They are practical, life-saving innovations rooted in justice, solidarity, and agroecology. If we have one project that is still working in the city of Tir in the south, this project was started during the war. This initiative in the middle of a city that is still caught in a relentless war, and displacement, youth and women were reclaiming public spaces and creating urban food forests, revitalizing seed sovereignty and practicing agroecology in the heart of cities. They are saving local varieties, educating communities, and this is food sovereignty in action. Shows a deep alignment between our national efforts and the Bangkok Youth Declaration and the call for justice and ecological sustainability. As a legislator, I see as our responsibility is to institutionalize these efforts, and that's why in our proposed law on the right to food, it includes the creation of a national council for food system where youth are not just contributing consulted, but they are represented in the decision-making process. And it also promotes justice, accountability, and inclusive governance so that the solutions young people are piloting at the grassroots level can be scaled through national policy. And to further engage youth into legislative processes, we must and we will work on creating youth policy labs and parliamentary hearing sessions, which we already started with women, and now we will start it with youth, hopefully, and on food and climate justice, establish direct funding mechanisms to support grassroots youth-led transformation, enable South-South youth exchanges as Lebanese youth are eager to collaborate across the global South. We like to collaborate across the globe, but because we have a lot of commonalities. And most importantly, treat food as a right and youth as co-creators of that right, not only recipients. And food system transformation is not an abstract ambition. It is a daily act of resilience. And in Lebanon, it is young people who are carrying it forward. And we have to ensure that they are heard, supported, and joined in solidarity. Our job as leaders is to listen, legislate, and lift up the voices that are already leading the way. Thank you.
Thank you again also for both of you for giving the example of Lebanon and bringing the youth as co-creators, and of course in a situation of displacement and conflict that we so much need to discuss. So thank you very much for this contribution. I would like to turn to Ms. Paulina Adi, who is from Ghana. And Paulina, we were together in Accra for the regional training that we have of the African youth leaders of this hub program. And we made an interview there, and you have said, a quote is, with a bunch of youth in Africa, we have a hope and potential in food systems. So now we're 1 year after. And how does it feel to witness this professional growth and leadership of these youth across Africa that we witnessed today? And many of them are even working with national conveners today, something that the program facilitated. What's your reflection 1 year after, Paulina?
Right. Thank you very much for the opportunity and the great insights shared. I would want to say that the passion is still ablaze with the youth. They are still with the energy that they can transform the food systems. And from my space in Ghana, I can talk about a whole ministry that has been dedicated to youth development and empowerment with the new government that came, which means the suggestions we brought up during our dialogues are being put into action. So instead of youth and sports, now we have a whole ministry dedicated to attend to the needs of the youth. Now, getting into the food system space where I belong, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is also focusing on the youth. There are some youth who have not been employed, and means are being undertaken to engage them to get into the agricultural space. Institutional farming, securing land banks to engage the youth, provisioning of inputs for them to produce, especially around the peri-urban spaces, and then also targeting the micro level youth in poultry. So they will have poultry cages which can take 120 birds. So we are not looking at the large or medium scale, but we are looking even at the small scale systems because we don't want to leave anybody behind. So that is the steps we are taking. But for me, visibility is also very important. sometimes you ask yourself, where are the youth? So as youth, we should get into clubs so it will be very easy to tag them onto the programs we implement. We have a Ghana Enterprises Agency program targeting the youth, and we were not getting the quota. There was a suggestion for us to increase the age from 35, that was the limit, to let's say 40. But we were told we should still keep the 35 and intensify the search to get to that quota. And if we don't get them in recognizable groupings, it becomes very difficult. So for me, I will implore them to get into units that can attract them to also benefit from some of these resources. But for us, we have to leave that lasting legacy for them to also take on and continue with this life. We have commercialization, but now agroecology is becoming very important. And it is the youth that will let this hold. So this is what I would want to share for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pauline. And I remember when we were in Accra, and there was this cause. We need to make agriculture sexy again. That you were saying, and the issue of the unemployment, and livelihoods is something that is essential in this conversation. That sometimes also I think we could speak a little bit more. So I do have more questions for you, but I also think it's a very interesting point that we hear from our audience and participants. If not, I do have questions, so don't feel pressured. We will have time. But if there's any comment or reaction from the floor and our participants, I would be happy to take. So could I just have a sense if there are hands? I see one here, two, here. 3, okay, and 4. Oh, let's see, it's always a dangerous thing. But okay, so that's good. That's why we're not going to do a second round of questions, and I think it's very important we have that conversation. So if you help me here, I will start here. There was a hand here. Am I on this side here? No? It was behind? If not, I'll move there. You, please. If you can just introduce yourself and be very brief.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. I would appreciate to be here with you guys, and I'm very excited to hear about such kind of system. I haven't been here so far. So my name is Melaku. I'm a founder and executive director for the Model Africa Union in Ethiopia. So my question goes to do you guys have any platform if the young people to be a part of it, or to give any insight or any contribution related to these topics? One. And the other things also, do you guys have any mechanisms out of the declaration? Because declaration is, everywhere is a declaration related to their topics and everything. So we have a lot of declarations, but a lot of things. So as Elizabeth or someone has said that, and actions, right? So what I was try to ask you guys, do you guys have any monitoring evaluation, what we are declared for it? I mean, any action. So maybe it's through your partnership and collaboration organizations. This is my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we'll go over. There's a second question there, please.
Hello, also good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Agamra Kalamayo from Addis Ababa University. I would like to thank you for the opportunity. Also, I would like to appreciate your insightful reflection and suggestion. So my question is, first of all, what should be the role if the youth, what are the role of the youth engaging in startups, particularly those agribusiness, agri-tech, can apply innovative financing and effective utilization? My second question is how we can, considering the youth, particularly in refugee camps and conflict affected areas, can be engaged on this, like food transformation, also empowering the, not only for empowering the community, but how they can be survived or can be survived from these conflict areas. My third question is how the youth can be engaged in agribusiness. I think, in my opinion, the critical problem is financing. So how the youth can take or achieve strategic financing for strategic investment. So what is your recommendation?
Thank you very much. On financing startups and agribusiness, I see. I will get, I think, Lauren behind just to have a gender balance here on the questions.
Thank you so much for the chance to take the floor and for the interesting conversation and for having so many excellent voices on the panel. I just wanted to mention, and I don't know if you mentioned this at the start, but FAO has just published a new flagship report on the status of youth and agri-food systems. And we're really happy to share it with all of you so that you can read it, see what you agree with, what you disagree with, share the messages that you agree with, and challenge us on the things that you think have been overlooked. Because we need the voices of young people to carry forward the messages of the report about the specific challenges, but also the opportunities that food systems present for young people. So I just wanted to mention it. And I have the QR code if anybody wants it. I can pass out some bookmarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have two more resources on youth. Thank you for sharing that. Please.
Bon, bonjour. Excusez-moi de m'exprimer en français. Donc, je sais que nous sommes très minoritaires dans la salle. Mais bon, il faut juste noter que nous sommes participants. Donc, moi, je suis John Aline Badara. Je suis le président du Collège des jeunes du Conseil national de concertation et de coopération des ruraux. Je viens du Sénégal. Et je suis le premier vice-président du Collège des jeunes du réseau des producteurs et paysans de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, chargé de la formation. C'est l'intervention de la dame devant moi qui m'a, en tout cas, donné plus d'énergie à prendre la parole. La question, on la pose tout le temps dans nos rencontres, partout en Afrique, où j'ai été et quelques endroits du monde. La question de l'âge de la jeunesse, ou bien la définition du jeune en quelque sorte en tant que tel. Donc par les organismes, par les fonds de financement et non par les gouvernants et non par les gouvernements. Elle l'a dit. Elles ont des projets et programmes, elles cherchent des cibles, mais elles ne trouvent pas. Et des fonds de financement, des banques au niveau international, des projets comme le FIDA, je cite, que disent que pour, en tout cas, qu'il soit bénéficié de ces programmes, il faut qu'il ait 35 ans au maximum. Nous nous posons tout le temps la question dans ces rencontres de cette sorte, est-ce que les gens connaissent la cible dont elles parlent, la cible qui est vendue tant partout et qui est mobilisatrice de milliards qu'on ne voit pas? Aujourd'hui, nous nous disons, nous avons de l'énergie, c'est vrai. Mais je sais, je vous jure que la jeunesse n'est pas touchée. La jeunesse n'est même pas représentée dans les instances, c'est vrai. Nous venons des zones rurales où la jeunesse n'est même pas au courant de ce qui se passe dans les salles. Ce n'est seulement l'élite qui vient, qui est représentée et qui vient parler parfois leurs propres idées, parfois ils ne consultent même pas les autres, il n'y a même pas de plateforme qui permet aux jeunes de se réunir leur avis, de donner leur position. Il est important que les gens réfléchissent encore. Le maître mot qui m'a tiqué ici, c'est que les leaders s'étaient engagés. Ont-ils réussi? C'est une grande question. On a beaucoup parlé de commission de finances et de la commission des jeunes, surtout de la commission des jeunes de l'UA, de l'Union africaine. La jeunesse africaine ne connaît même pas cette commission. Donc on parle de nous, les organismes, les leaders, les pays doivent encore prendre la question de la jeunesse au sérieux. Placer la jeunesse au centre de la transformation des systèmes alimentaires pour que ça sorte des salles, que ça ne soit plus des paroles mais des actes.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, monsieur, pour l'intervention. Très intéressante et je suis sûre qu'on va avoir des réflexions parce que vous avez aussi une question de représentation et je pense qu'on essaye justement d'avancer dans cette question. On sait que ce n'est pas suffisant. Cependant, je pense que David aussi pourrait parler un peu sur la représentation et c'est le but de World Food. Bon, on va juste passer. So we have 5 minutes for reactions before we go to a closing. So we do have questions on startup, agribusiness, representation, a platform, and of course, and that's something that we discussed among ourselves. There is a declaration. Obviously, there is also a gap. How do we implement this declaration? And that's not something that we didn't think. However, there is definitely space for us to how do we accelerate that and verify that we are advancing? So from here on my side on the youth, who would like to, I think, Rina, you can talk about the startups, and I don't know if others would like to complement. So Rina, if you start with on the business side and finance.
Yeah. As an innovation hub manager in the Philippines, it's very crucial that you must have a center for this, that programs and services that you are trying to create is human centered and philosophical centered. What do I mean by that is when it comes to the financing or create or someone who is an innovator or creating, you must make them fall in love with the problem so that we can have or the mantra of agricultural entrepreneur or startup founder. This is the mindset. It is not what is the next step. It is what is my next step. That is really very important because the support, the financing, the policies, the youth declaration itself, we are now mobilizing it. And the youth has and the real voice of it. It is more than just we go. I think we just have to go beyond programs and services. It is our mindset in what is my next step. And by that is intercollaboration and interconnectedness with other stakeholders is very important. The reason why dialogues, no, during the YLP program, we are encouraged to really have a dialogue, to really interconnect of who are those very important stakeholders to really interconnect open opportunities. All you have to do, especially to the youth right now, is talk, listen, and understand and communicate to those who have opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rina, so much. I know you can go on forever. Very passionate, and we're very happy to have your voice here. Really, thank you so much. And I think, Nicholas, you mentioned you want to react on something or specific. We have few minutes.
Yeah, I would like to react, but in Spanish again, in order to the diversity. Yes. Y quiero tocar el punto de cómo hacemos el seguimiento. La verdad es que es desafiante porque sabemos que los sistemas alimentarios tocan distintas agendas y procesos internacionales como el clima, la biodiversidad y la desertificación. Y cada proceso tiene un mecanismo de seguimiento. Estamos empujando para que los sistemas alimentarios estén, por ejemplo, en los proyectos de que hacen respuesta al clima, ¿cierto? De adaptación, por ejemplo. Entonces, hoy en día tenemos que disgregar los datos y eso es algo que también estamos solicitando, que las ayudas, los proyectos puedan especificar si llegan a las comunidades y si en esas comunidades logramos llegar a la comunidad joven. Quiero tocar igual un punto que se hacía referencia a uno de los speakers respecto a la edad de la juventud. Y los motivos a que definamos esta línea en los 35 años, porque si seguimos extendiéndola hasta los 40, se vuelve más desafiante. En Chile tenemos el caso de que la nueva política nacional de juventudes rurales extiende la edad hasta los 40 años. Y es lamentable porque el dinero sigue siendo el mismo, pero ahora se reparte entre más personas. Entonces tenemos una juventud que tiene 18 a 29 años, que hoy día está compitiendo con una juventud que tiene de 35 a 40 y que es una juventud que tiene más capacidades, que tiene más información, y como les digo, el dinero sigue siendo el mismo, pero se reparte entre más beneficiarios. Entonces, no es algo positivo, así que insto a los países miembros a definir esa línea roja en la edad de 35 años. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Nicolas. David, I think you would like to also perhaps complement a little bit on this monitoring. Where do we bring the declaration?
Thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you to all who asked questions. I think one of the next landmarks for this declaration will be the World Food Forum flagship event. For those who aren't familiar with the World Food Forum, it's a platform for youth empowerment, for agri-food systems transformation. And we'll be having our flagship event in October in person and online. And we're going to have a dedicated session where we will discuss the follow-up to this youth declaration. So we want to hear what do the young people think now that it's launched. It's launched today, where people will have time to reflect on it, time to consider actions, and we look forward to welcoming many of you to that conversation. In addition to future milestones, including COP30 in Brazil next year, where food systems is obviously going to be very central.
Thank you, David. And I think that we are very conscious of the need of connecting the dots among different processes. And when you observe here, even in this room, there is a community. We know each other and things, and it's expanding, but it's important that we bring this community together. So it's really like breaking the silos of people as well, not only of knowledge. So I will give a really final 1 minute for our panelists, and then we move to our closing section. So please, Professor Nit.
So just one point also in response to Senegal, actually. And I think this is, I wanted to share with the youth leaders here in terms of our learnings from the women's movement, because again, in all these international events, women are put as a category, youth are put as a category, and we fought for a long time for a recognition of intersectionality. But women are not homogeneous. There are urban, rural, indigenous, young, old, and so on. And I think it's the same with youth. And today we already heard in this room that rural women or rural youth are not represented, and so on, or indigenous youth are not represented. So I just wanted to, I think it's there in the declaration, but I just wanted to reiterate this point that after many years of working with the women's movement, I think we've kind of embedded this element of intersectionality as part of representation, because we do find that these different groups have very different needs, interests, priorities. And just from working with young women, for instance, in South Asia now with climate change and so on, a lot of the young men are migrating to urban areas to work in non-farm employment, to look for jobs. And it's actually young women who are managing land and production processes, but they don't have inheritance, they don't have rights to land, they don't have much mobility. In many societies, there's also limitations to their mobility. So there's and access to resources, information, technology. So I think there's a lot of unpaid, they end up doing a lot of unpaid work, both for care and in production. And I think recognizing and valuing some of the unpaid work done, for instance, by young women, and how do we value it, how do we compensate it, I think this is also really important. So that's just a little footnote into the fantastic declaration statement that you have.
Thank you so much for bringing this. It's the care economy that we are trying to put the economics into this. Thank you so much, Ms. Paulina.
Yeah, thank you very much. Someone mentioned about the transformation aspect within the value chain, and I would want to say that a lot is done. The youth are targeted, and they receive services, paid services, to support them with the quality assurance, with the transformation that takes place from production. So there's value addition, but the quality assurance aspect is handled. I would also want to say that beyond the startups, now we are looking at growth and self-sustaining programs, so then we can target other lots. Otherwise, you keep giving and then you don't track to see whether it is transforming positively. And then always you find people at your beck and call requesting for more. But we have to emphasize on the growth aspect for that self-sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you so much for these points. A big round of applause for our panel. And thank you all of you for respecting time. Look, we're a very big panel here. Thanks for those who are staying until the very end of our first day at the UNFSS +4. But it is my great pleasure to now invite Dr. Andreas Schellmeier, who is the head division of Food and Nutrition Security Fisheries at the Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, the DMZ. And we wouldn't be here without the support of DMZ. So really, Andreas, thank you very much. And I think we're all looking forward to your final thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Nicole, and thanks everybody for participating in this session. And it's a great honor to close this, because this youth leadership program and what you developed just showed that, and you said this, Nicole, in the beginning, that we are not just funding a symbolic participation of youth, we are funding and enabling the youth to really take part in decision making. And I think this is the intention of this program, because young people are impatient. I heard they are pragmatic and passionate. Yeah, passionate, right? So, and that's a great basis which this program enabled them in the design of the UNFSS structure. So, because the key for the connection was that the leadership program connected the young leaders to the national conveners and to the national pathways. So it was just more than bringing the voices in. And yes, we as Germany are very proud also to fund this. We observed the whole process. The youth declaration is not only what we see right now at the table, it is the whole process, and the way it was debated, the open debates were extremely important, and therefore the topic of this panel from Bangkok to Addis Ababa as a journey is a perfect description of what had happened. I also would like to add that this aspect of accountability is extremely important for German government. Because probably some of you know that Transparency International, this famous initiative, was founded by a German, Peter Eigen. I just met him 4 weeks ago, and he would be very proud of what we are doing. We are enabling youth, we are establishing transparency initiatives, and what is this all about? It's all about accountability and also challenging bottlenecks which we are facing not only in developing countries, but also in developed countries. And therefore, youth programs are extremely helpful in doing something, not like steered, but with passion and with its impatience. And let me also add something else, that I had great opportunity yesterday evening to engage with the young leaders, and it was really also wonderful to see that everybody has its own projects and agendas, right? And so Dina, Musa, Matthews, Reno, and all of you brought in your own perspectives into the debates of food system. And last but not least, this our intention with the program, this science policy interface, is extremely important in a world of fake news and increasing populism, right? We need policy making based on science. Science is powerful to bring back people to the table. We are all here at this table, and the youth is at the table. And this is always strongly related to the multilateral institutions that are under attack. And what we are funding with this project is also an open debate and a science-based exchange. So I would like finally say thank you to all the participants, then to Nicole and the UNFSS Hub, because it makes a real difference, you know, who is creating this program, and with all the passion on your side, you created a really great program. And last but not least, the young leaders, and I hope you remove a lot of bottlenecks and start innovation in this world. Thank you very much.
Very much. I have no other words. There's really a lot of gratitude to the government of Germany and for the trust and for the support. Of course, big round of applause to our youth, to our participants. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, a big audience. We're talking about representation and inclusivity. There is a lot of people online. So I don't know where the camera, but I want to say hello, many cameras. Thank you so much for being with us. This will be also recorded where you can share. And we just hope, I started saying this is a journey. Well, I hope also we'll continue. We're going to bring this to Rome, to the World Food Forum. We're going to bring this to Brazil, my own country, in Belém, with COP30 and climate. You're also, I'm sure, we're going to have these connections and building bridges. Thank you once again. You're all invited. Today is not over, no? Because we can continue. I'm sure you're also very busy, but there's the launch of the Sophie report at very soon happening now at the Africa Hall. You're all invited here and online. Thank you very much for being here, and I hope you are inspired. Have a good evening.